Hi everybody, Whitney with Girl Friday Crafts here. It's Wednesday, but I am recording my Craft With Me Friday video today because Friday I will be participating in Chalk Couture's Chalk Con, and I didn't want to switch up the days for the videos because I'm starting to get into that routine, but I didn't want to skip a Friday because I've only done 2 so far, and for consistency's sake, I thought it was a little early for me to be skipping a Friday. So here we are. Today we're gonna make a couple of t-shirts. You'll have to forgive me. I have been organizing my craft space for about the past 2.5 hours. And I decided I needed a little bit of a break from that. And I thought, oh, let me do my video. But I kind of decided to do it at the last minute, and I'm not entirely sure I have everything that I need, so I might have to step away. And I'm not completely sure that I know what I'm doing either, but that's okay. So the first shirt I'm gonna do is one for me. As part of ChalkCon, we can get t-shirts to make with special designs. So this is the shirt we got, this cute little 3/4 sleeve with the peach color. And the theme for this year's ChalkCon is live from Chalk Central, kind of mimicking the, live from New York common show intro that everybody knows. And so one of the designs we got was this more cowbell. So I'm putting that on the front of my shirt, and then I'm gonna put the ChalkCon 2024 on the back. And there is a glare in my video. I'm gonna try one thing real quick. See if that helps. My lighting situation today is a little strange because the overhead bulbs burnt out on me yesterday, and as I was actually sitting down to do the video, I realized that we had not replaced them yet. So I do think, turned off my closet light, and I do think that helped. So we're gonna do this, and then we're gonna do another shirt using this Vintage Numbers transfer. So I'm gonna do a vintage 1974 shirt for a friend of mine who just had a birthday. All right, so let's get started. Need my scissors. So I've got my heat press heating up over here so that I can press this just a little before we start, press the shirt and get some of the moisture out. Just like if you work with heat transfer vinyl, you want to do that even with chalk ink. A little wrinkle in there. I'm trying not to iron a wrinkle into it. So you don't have to do much. I really just go over the surface a little bit. I always manage to iron wrinkles in to the fabric. And set that aside. I'm gonna keep my heat press on because this really shouldn't take me very long to ink the design and then dry it. So then I don't necessarily need to let it heat back up. So I have a couple of different ink mats over here. It is recommended that when you're using ink, chalk ink, that you use an ink mat. It's nice and sticky, so it keeps your your fabric adhered, so that when you pull up the transfer, the fabric doesn't go with it, and kind of keeps everything where it's supposed to be. Not gonna lie, getting these into a t-shirt is a bit of a challenge sometimes. I have figured out that if I cut mine down to smaller sizes, it makes it easier, because then I can just sort of slide that up. And I also stopped worrying about whether or not I had the ink mat straight. It really didn't matter as long as the surface adhered and the transfer was on the ink mat entirely. It didn't matter if the ink mat was actually crooked. And then you do not have to defuzz a transfer if you are using ink. You actually don't want to do that because you want the transfer to stick as much as possible. And I'm going to use my little centering tool here just a little bit to kind of help me make sure. I don't know why I've gotten weird about measuring lately. I just did a huge batch of t-shirts. And when one of them was finished, it was really off center. Fortunately, not really off center, it was off center. Fortunately, it was one I could use just for me. Then I got all in my head about it, and I kept measuring everything. And I don't ever measure, I just eyeball it, and I've never had problems. And now that I'm like, actually, no, I need to measure, having problems. Probably just need to stop. Okay. So now at least I have a little bit of an idea of like where the O and the R need to go. Because obviously I've got to peel the backer sheet off and put the transfer down. And I do lay this down and it sort of sticks a little bit on the centering tool, but then I just pull the centering tool off. Just kind of, that got down there a little more than I wanted. Okay, so I wouldn't advise that. I put that on there a little more than I wanted to. It was touching the centering tool a little more than I wanted to. I had to pull that up a little bit and it got stretchy. Okay, so we're going to use orange peel and couture teal. So I'm going to use the teal for the words and orange peel for the bell. Open this up. And I'm going to stir this away from my fabric so that if I get a little crazy in the stirring and fling ink everywhere, it hopefully won't hit the shirt. Although this is my shirt, so again, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. I decided to do this today with you all on video, even though, I mean, it's nothing special, no, you know, real special technique or anything, but I am wanting to get better at using chalk ink. I like making t-shirts a lot, and I am not completely comfortable using ink. And so it's just something that I want to work on for myself, and I thought, well, why not put it in the video? I'm not really sure what my struggles are with ink, other than I feel like I don't do a very good job of covering the transfer completely. And so I usually end up with white spots or spots where the ink didn't go through all the way. So I'm probably not pressing hard enough or using enough ink. Being in a situation right now where I don't have great lighting also doesn't help me, but we'll fix that. I am looking forward to ChalkCon. This will be my first one. I'm a little bummed because we are actually going out of town this weekend and that wasn't completely planned. Not that I wouldn't have registered anyway, because I'll still be able to participate in some of it, and I wanted all the swag. I like that kind of stuff. But I'm not gonna be able to participate in the design sessions on Saturday. And there's some really cool stuff coming, just based on the project supplies that we were able to order and that came in the mail this week. So I'm looking forward to that. If you are a Perks member, you have the opportunity to register for ChalkCon. I think registration's closed at this point, but just bear that in mind for next year. That Perks members can participate in the design sessions. The Friday business sessions are just for designers, but the design sessions on Saturday are for designers and Perks members. So if that's something that you would be interested in seeing next year, all you have to do is join the Perks program. And if you want more information about that, just comment Perks in the comments on the video and I will get in touch with you about that. And then obviously I will be sharing in videos the techniques that we learn. So okay, I'm gonna stand up so that I can, yep, see, there's a spot already on the, all right, I'll go back and get that. There's a spot in the lettering that I can see that I missed now that I'm standing up. I was a little concerned that I'm moving too slow and that my paste is starting to dry. I also have all kinds of little white fuzzies in my paste and I don't know what that's from. I don't know if that's from the shirt, although I don't know how because this side of the transfer hasn't touched the shirt. This. Okay, so I got that. I'm going to get I don't always go far enough to the edges of the design, and so then I end up with spots that I miss. Okay. So we are going to peel this up, and you know, having that ink mat where the shirt is sticking to the mat helps because the shirt's not really coming along with the transfer as I lift, although I am holding it down just a little bit. Alright, so that's not too bad. Kind of happy with that. There's a little spot. Oh, okay. So I didn't go fast enough. There's a little spot in this E up here that I'm going to get my toolbox. Something I did not get. I was sitting down and getting ready to start the video and I was looking at everything. I'm like, I'm forgetting something. Couldn't figure out what it was. Well, it's my little box of tools here that I usually have out. Just a little plastic storage container. I think I actually mentioned these little containers in my blog post last week or sometime recently about organizing supplies that I really like. So this little tool comes in the artist's toolkit, and it's great for where you've missed little spots, because it's just a little rubber or silicone tip. It's very pointed and it's really easy to use to fill in paste or ink in a really small area, so I like it. I use it a lot. Okay, so that's done. So we're gonna dry it real quick, so I apologize. There's gonna be some noise. So there's also a little spot in my exclamation point here, and because this has not been heat set yet, I can fix it. You could fix it even if you'd heat set it already. It's just easier to do if you haven't. Drying it with a drying tool or hair dryer does not completely heat set. So there's a question, and I never went back to check and see if anybody responded, in Design Studio about whether putting something in the dryer for 30 minutes or something like that would actually heat set instead of using a heat press. And somebody was going to try it and then post whether or not it worked, and I never went back and found the post to see if it worked or if they, you know, posted an update. Okay, now because I'm gonna do 2 shirts at the same time, I'm not gonna dry that completely with the drying tool. I just wanted to dry it enough so that I could move it okay. So as it's ink everywhere, all over me. As it's drying, I'm seeing more spots that I missed. Fill that in. So I'm just gonna set this aside, start working on the other shirt while this finishes drying. And then we're gonna heat set this side. And then I'll do the other side of this one. Okay, so I'm gonna move this aside, lift it up this way. Over there. Okay, I'm back. And then we're gonna work on this shirt. So again, same thing, just gonna lay this one out and do a little bit of a press to get the moisture out my design area. I'm gonna turn my heat press off because this one is gonna take me, I didn't think I didn't think the more cowbell shirt was going to take me long enough to where the press was going to beep at me. I was wrong. I know this one's going to take me longer than the cowbell shirt. So we're going to turn that off. It doesn't take long to heat back up, and I won't need it a bit. So this again is the Vintage Numbers transfer, and you've got vintage, you've got the numbers. Obviously you've got born in, established, and then it's got limited edition. So I'm going to do the vintage and then 1974 and then limited edition under that. What I don't know is color scheme. I'll do the vintage and the 1974 in white, but I kind of want to do the limited edition in something different, or I could do the stars on the limited edition in shimmer silver and then just the rest of it in white. Sticky. So for those of you who've watched my videos before, you probably get tired of me explaining what I'm why I'm doing this way. But when I first started with chalk, when I would cut a transfer, I would cut the backing sheet with it, and long story short, that just led to storage problems and me losing track of pieces of transfers, losing track of what image came off of what transfer sheet or what design. And I saw another designer cut the transfer on the left the backing sheet intact and just cut the transfer. And I thought, okay, I'll try that. And while the cutting process is a bit more challenging, especially for larger transfers, you all have seen me fumble with that a little bit on some videos. And sometimes before I record a video, I will actually do the cutting in advance. But it helps immensely with storage. It makes that just a lot easier. And I am going to cut the numbers out, because if I go to ink it, I'm going to end up having to lay the transfer on top of wet ink or dry each letter in between, which means the transfer is going to dry with paste on it or ink on it, and I don't want to do all that. So I'm going to cut the letters. These aren't letters. I'm going to cut the numbers. Now what's going to be really tricky, because I can't cut a straight line even with straight line drawn or with the ruler, is lining the numbers up so that they're even. That might be a handy dandy use of my placement tape if I can sit here and think about where it is. Should be, I know where it should be. That doesn't mean that's actually where it is right now. All of the organizing content that I have been doing for my community and for my coaching group lately has really spurred me to get myself back into a state of order. It's been a little crazy these past couple of months. Took on a little too much in April, and so I've been sort of still spinning from that. And so my space is a mess. And things aren't where they're supposed to be. And today, I'm fortunate to have a day off of work today, and I was just like, I can't take it. Our dogs went to daycare, and so I had lots of time that I could spend cleaning up my space, and so that's what I've been doing today. And it's felt really good. And honestly, I mean, I'm excited about our trip out of town. We're going to see my family, but I'm like, man, I'm on a roll here. Don't want to lose this momentum. Sometimes you've got to lean into that when you're really feeling it. All right. Okay, so these are numbers are cut. And okay, I don't know why I'm trying to lay them non-sticky side up. They're on the backing sheet. It's fine. Sorry, you all are just sitting here watching me fumble around with pieces, but it's part of the process, trying to figure out what to do with all the extraneous while you're working. Okay, so we're gonna start with the vintage. I am gonna kind of step my way down the shirt just so that I can dry parts of it as I go. And I'm not then getting ink everywhere. And I'm gonna get this smaller section of an ink mat that I've cut. Hopefully that should be big enough. I cut this one down pretty small. It's nice for smaller designs. It's definitely easier to get inside the shirt, she says, as she snags it and makes it harder. Okay. So I'm gonna stand up to do this. And I'm gonna put my centering tool up a little higher so that when I put this on the shirt, I don't end up getting it stuck to my centering tool. So that should be right. If you're making shirts for the first time, whether you're doing chalk or heat transfer vinyl, you want about 5 inches from the edge of your design, a minimum of 5 inches from the edge of your design to the edge of the shirt. So that should be about right. Okay, so we're gonna do this in white. And I'm gonna stand while I'm doing this so I can see the area. And I'm gonna stir my ink. Again, try to stir it a little bit away from the t-shirt so I don't fling ink everywhere. This is a little thick. This is an older older jar. So I'm gonna spritz it. I spritz it with a little bit of water, and I'm kind of doing this off camera here. I apologize. You can spray ink or paste with a little bit of distilled water, and that will sort of reactivate something that's dried out or has gotten kind of thick. You want to spray a little bit at a time, so I'll spray like 2 or 3 spritzes and then stir and then spray it again, so that way you don't get too much water in it and get it too thinned out. Also, if you want to paint with paste, thinning it out helps a lot. Okay, so sorry. Realizing as I'm standing and doing this that you can't see what I'm doing. I'm just stirring, nothing important. You do want a yogurt kind of consistency with your ink or with your paste. I have a large, well, this is actually called a small squeegee, but a larger of the two. But there is a part of the design right there that's very close to the edge of the silk screen, and I don't want to get ink on the shirt itself outside of where I want it to be. So I'm actually going to use smaller squeegees here. Okay. And I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up because I have more room up at the top, and then get some excess off of that corner. Go across. So this has a little bit of a distressed look to it. Again, those are nice because if you miss spots or if some ink or paste come up, you may not really be able to tell that that wasn't supposed to be what happened because of the distressing in the design itself. So I've got that, and then I'm going to take this smaller one that I've cut in half and get into this little section right here. So that I can do that without getting ink on the shirt where it's not supposed to be. So we're going to peel that up. That worked well. Drop that in my water bath. Again, if you've seen my videos before, you know that I have a water bath over here. You can barely see it right here. I have 2 plastic tubs of water, and I use those to drop my transfers and tools in while I'm still working, so that my paste or ink doesn't dry in my transfer until I can get upstairs and get everything washed. My dream is someday to have, well, our unfinished part of our basement, which is actually just right that way for me, is plumbed for a bathroom. So someday we'll have a bathroom, but in the interim, I would like to have a utility sink in there. That's, you know, hashtag first world goals. So I don't have to dry that completely yet because we've got some more inking to do. But again, I wanted it to be a little dry so that I wasn't necessarily running the risk of touching it or, you know, hitting it with the transfer. Or any of the rest of the stuff that I'm doing here, and smudging it, smearing it, getting wet ink on anything. Okay. So, the other thing I need to do is to make sure that's going to give me enough space for the numbers, which it is. And I do want to make sure this is a little bit centered, just because I don't want this top part to be nice and centered and the bottom not so much. Yep, I think that should be about right. We're just going to do this in white again, and I don't need to stir. Actually, no, we're going to do two things here. We're going to do white, and if I can find it, there it is. I'm going to do the stars in shimmer silver. I'm going to do those first. Okay, I am getting ink all over me. All my effort to dry stuff and everything like that so I don't get ink everywhere, and I am just sticking my hands in the ink. So I have not used this in ages, and I don't know if you can tell from how it's stirring. The shimmers just do not seem to dry out. Which is great. I love that. Definitely do not need to stir them as much. And I'm going to use the small edge of this detail tool to ink these stars because they are small. And I want to do my best not to get silver ink where I don't want it. And then we're going to have to do something similar for part of where the white goes, because there's like a little edging around the words limited edition. It's very thin. Very close to the stars, and so definitely possibilities of getting colors mixed together, which is fine, not the end of the world. No chalk emergencies. I do have 2 of these detail tools, which makes it nice. And so we're just gonna go along the edge of this first, hoping you can see that in the video, and you'll be able to see what the design looks like when it's done. And because I am inking this, sorry, well, yes, it's chalk, up and down, I'm gonna do that across the whole design, but right now I'm just gonna focus on this little edging piece here, and then I'm gonna get a larger squeegee and do the rest. And this might end up being an area when it's done that I'm gonna have to go back over, just because it's hard to see where the lines end on the design. And I'm trying really hard not to get into the space where those stars are. So you want to make sure that when you chalk, ink, paste, whatever you're doing, that you either go up and down or sideways. Try not to go both directions in the same image. It just creates lines. You can also get, I heard somebody say, I think it increases the likelihood that you might get bleed, because you might end up pushing down too hard. And you get lines anyway, but the lines are easier to fix if you're just going in one direction. Okay. So that looks done. Okay, so I missed some spots on the edge there. I'm going to set that back down. Try to go over it again. Do recommend when you're peeling up a transfer that you try to go slow. There we go. Because you can often catch if you missed spots or if paste is lifting in some way. And you can drop the transfer back down real quick, go over it again, and oftentimes you can fix it. So I'm gonna have to do the same thing over here, although this has a little bit of distressing in it. It's kind of hard to tell what was coming up or what I might have missed and what was actually just the distressing. But okay, so the stars aren't popping quite as much as I had hoped they would. I might actually go over them a little bit with this tool. Just fill in some of that. Looks like a little bit of my ink might have lifted. Also, once it dries and I heat set it, and especially if I use a if I use a Teflon sheet, when it's heat setting, the Teflon gives a bit of a shine to the design. So better. And if I really want to, I can lay that transfer down before I heat set it. After it's dried, lay the transfer back down, go over it again with the silver, and that might make it pop. The other thing I could have done, and I didn't even think about this till just now, is I could have done that whole thing in white and then just gone back over the stars in silver when it was dry. If you're inking on darker colors with lighter paste, that's a good way to get that light color paste to pop, or lighter color. Okay, I don't know what I'm saying. Inking in white and then going back over it in a different color is just a good way to get that other color to pop. So now comes the really fun part. Trying to line up these numbers. So that they're probably going to have to end up going outside the design. So I'm probably going to have to move this. And I should probably be standing up to do this. But I'm going to just set them down and then that's going to end up. So we're going to cut this a little bit here. Otherwise that little piece of transfer is going to end up touching those stars. And I don't want it to do that. I'll probably have to do the same thing on the 7 because there's quite a bit of excess silk screen on the bottom there. Okay, so that 4 is up a little high. I'm going to move that down. And they're all actually a little crooked. Okay. So the one, it's weird when you cut something crooked and it makes the thing you cut look crooked even if it's not. So the 1 is, my lines cutting the 1 aren't straight, so when I look at it, those lines make it look like the whole thing is off center, and it's really not. We'll definitely have to, and again, because this was sort of a last minute, hey, I'm going to do this right now. I didn't really get a chance to ask any of my fellow designers who I know have used this transfer or have done other things with you know, letter, font, transfers or numbers, you know, how they sort of line it up to make sure that it looks kind of straight. So I think one of the things that I can do is measure from that to that. So that's about 1/2 inch. That's about 1/2 inch. Told my husband they need to make a craft ruler that has a level built in. So something like this that has like a level right there in the middle. I'm gonna figure out how to make that and patent it. Gonna be my brilliant idea. All right, so I think that's okay. I'm gonna use this smaller squeegee again, just again to make sure that I don't get ink where I don't want it, like on the t-shirt itself or outside the design. Also, this is a gift for a friend, so you know, friends are nice and forgiving about handmade things that are less than perfect. If I was making this to sell, then I would spend a little more time trying to figure out how to make sure that these numbers are nice and straight, or I would have done it in vinyl and not chalk, because then you can cut the numbers all at the same time and put them on all in with the same piece of vinyl. I still like working with vinyl. I've been using direct-to-film transfers a lot lately, which is great because it allows me to make shirts using PNG images that I can't cut out of vinyl. So that's awesome. I'd love to have my own DTF printer, but that is not in the financial cards right now. Maybe someday. Maybe someday. Of course, that's also a space issue because those things are big. Okay. Get the outer edge of this 7 here. The ink is not wanting to cover. That's a user error, not the ink's problem. And then get the 4. Okay. So there's that, and I'm going to be done with that tool, so I can just drop it in. Oh, well, probably should have waited to make sure. I'm going to start with the 4, to be honest, because I've got some overlap in where the transfers are touching. So start this way and work my way across. So this detail tool has a nice little pointed edge. It's very helpful in lifting the corners of transfers. hold that one down at the same time. So some of my lines around the numbers didn't really either go through all the way or are coming up as I'm lifting the transfer. But because this has that distressed look to it anyway, I'm not going to worry too much about that. Make sure all those get down in there. So we're going to dry this. First, we're going to wipe all the ink off my hand again. Sometimes I'm not really sure how I do that. It's okay. I am going to try to touch up this one line. So the outer edge of the 9 here, that entire line either lifted or I didn't ink it right. Yeah, I'm not liking what that's doing, so I'm going to leave it be. So you want to make sure this is really dry before you heat set it. Because to heat set it, you're going to want to lay a Teflon sheet or some parchment paper over it. And so you don't want the ink to still be wet when you lay that down. So we're going to take it off the ink mat. Make sure to take it off the ink mat before you heat set it. This is a little challenging. This is also why you want to make sure it's nice and dry, because getting it off of there requires some pulling, and sometimes you end up having parts of the shirt touch each other, and if it's still, the ink's still wet, then you'll end up getting ink where you don't want it. Okay, so I'll hold that up like that a little bit. Just kind of let this come out. So I use my Cricut EasyPress to heat set about 350 degrees for 30 seconds. You don't want to move it around. You want to get some medium pressure in there. And then I'm gonna come down here a little bit just to make sure that the whole entire image design got heat set. I love this Cricut EasyPress. You know, again, when you make t-shirts, a swing arm heat press is, you know, kind of the everybody's ultimate dream, I think. Also expensive, also takes up a lot of space. So that's in the maybe someday category, but this definitely does the trick. So hold on to this, and then I'm gonna let it cool a little bit before I touch it. It can be very hot, obviously. And then you just want to kind of run your finger over it a little bit to make sure that that tacky feeling is gone. And you know, anywhere that it's not, you just press again 10 to 15 seconds at a time. You don't really need to do a full 30-second press again, but that seems to be okay. So that one's done. So we're gonna set this one back here, and we're gonna get the more cowbell. So I know we are past an hour at this point. So I'm going to, this should be, that's still a little wet. Okay, we're gonna dry it. I must have been a little heavy-handed with that ink there. Never fails as soon as I start to say, well, that should be dry by now. It is absolutely not. It's still wet down here. Yep, okay, that's good. This one's particularly tricky, obviously, because it's a white shirt. Sometimes, you know, shirts different colors might show less if you inadvertently get paste where you don't want it. You want to be careful when you're drying on the heat mat. You don't want to hold the drying tool in one place for too long. You want to make sure you move it around. And I always use the lower setting on my drying tool, just so that I don't do any damage to the ink mat. Okay, so then we're gonna set this down here. My heat press is still on, ready to roll. Set my Teflon sheet down. And I know that the whole design didn't get covered, so I'm going to move that. Again, 350 degrees for 30 seconds is your initial press. A little bit of medium pressure, which is why I have to be standing up to do it. Let that cool a little. Yep. Okay. All good there. If you will indulge me for just another minute. I'm gonna set this aside. I'm gonna lay this down. And I'm going to take this smaller ink mat so this is doing the backs of shirts has been something new for me. Never done the back of a shirt before until very recently. I did some summer camp shirts for my business coaching group. We're actually going through a little summer camp program in our group, and I did double-sided shirts, and that was new for me. So kind of on this double-sided shirt kick. I'm actually going to be doing double-sided shirts for a trip coming up in July with my girlfriends. Y'all might see some of that being done, some of those being made in upcoming posts or videos. So we are going to chalk the back of this with the ChalkCon 2024 logo. So I'm gonna use my centering tool to help me place it. I'm not going to record all the way through this whole process. I'm actually going to turn my heat press off. We're actually going to have to head soon and go pick up the dogs from daycare. But I did want to go ahead and get this part finished while we were together today. I know we're not really together because I know I'm not live, but we're still together. Inches there. Okay. Definitely not. Move it over a little bit. And again, you know, this is for me, so definitely not absolutely necessary that it's perfect, but okay. A little bit more this way. Figuring out where to measure from sometimes can be a little tricky. Let's measure from the numbers. 7 3/4 there. Yeah. So I think I'm still a little off center. Actually, let's measure from here. So about 5 1/4 there. Nope, that's actually right. Okay, perfect. So we're gonna do this in the Couture teal, just all one color. Start in the middle here. Work my way down. Try to avoid the labeling on the side of the transfer here. There's my little tool here. Okay, now that is actually one of the best results with ink I think I've ever had. No spots where the ink lifted or anything. Everything, all of the design is completely filled in. So, you know, it's definitely a practice thing. I think I went a little heavier on the ink than I normally do. Let me hold this up so you all can see that. See if I can turn it this way so you all can see that. There we go. So, I mean, that's actually pretty perfect. I'm pretty happy about that. All right, so we're just gonna let this dry naturally. I'm actually gonna try not to make y'all too nauseous here. I'm gonna come around so you can see me. Hi, I'm a little bit of a mess here. So I'm just gonna let that dry naturally and then I'll heat set it. I'll post a picture in the comments. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for watching. Would love your feedback in the comments. Did you like the project? Did you like the colors? definitely would love some input on what other kinds of videos you would like to see. There's going to be new techniques coming from, you know, what we're learning in ChalkCon this weekend. So I fully intend to use all of those things to make some videos, and I have some other projects coming to mind as well, especially as we start to think about the holidays. Wow, I am really just a mess today. Oh my goodness. But yeah, say hi in the comments. Let me know where you're watching from. Let me know what you thought. Let me know what you'd like to see. Definitely would love your feedback. So hope you all are having a great day, and I will see you next time. Bye.